I'm Timmy.
I'm Justin.
I'm Nathan.
And this is Three Old Tech Dudes.
Ha ha ha.
What are we talking about today, Timmy?
We're going to talk about some Baofeng action, you know? Everybody's favorite cheap HT.
All right, let's get into it.
I guess let's look at this angle of the Baofeng phenomenon, which has been around since I think 2012 or 13.
Maybe a little before then, but yeah.
I got mine in 2013, and I was like, what is this? There's these radios are, $20 or $25 for the cheapest version.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think, what's your opinion on the effect on the amateur radio hobby? Is it an improvement or a detriment?
I honestly think, for me, that it's not a detriment, because if you're poor, like I was in college, where you have no money, a $20 radio to get into the hobby is probably worth it, or 40 or 50, whatever it is now. Just because it gets you on the air, and it gets you on the air cheap. And I think about my son, who is trying to get his license right now, and he can afford a $50 radio. He probably can't afford a $1,000 radio, or, because okay, so I don't know if you guys ever saw it. Tim, I think you did. And the day I had an ICOM W2A.
Yes.
Which was a dual band, really nice dual band handheld. And
Sure.
I had the mobile version of it too. And I bought the HT new. I bought the mobile used, very gently used. It was from both from RNL. And I paid about like $700 for that one. And
Oh, absolutely.
I paid almost $900 for that quad band. The quad band one I have, the T2A or whatever it is. I paid like $900 for that thing. I dropped a lot of money on that thing. I have Baofeng. I have I think it's actually pronounced Oshin, but it's that Owaxun or whatever thing. Anyway, which it works. I can't say they don't work. They do work.
Yeah.
They're just not.
Sometimes they don't work well. I've had push to talks not work well on them out of the box before.
See, I've actually never had a functionality problem with a Baofeng radio.
Mine's actually having a few little weird glitches. I honestly just think I need to reset it, and it would probably be happy, because I think I hit something that knocked it just crazy. But,
oh, you know how you do the factory reset on those?
You grab
them, and then you take your truck up to about 55, and then you fling it out the window.
You couldn't get anything under $100 even in the late 90s.
Yeah.
I had my first HT was a small Radio Shack HT my parents picked up at the local Radio Shack, and they only made it for a year or two. It took 2 AA batteries and was a half watt on high power.
Yep.
If you're wondering, that's nearly useless unless you're standing outside for an HT, at least at a distance of more than a few miles. Unless I didn't have good luck with a lot, is what I'm saying. But it was a radio, and I was excited to have it. But so I guess my thoughts on the Baofeng, in that regard. Is it Baofeng or Baofeng? You hear everybody say it different. I say Baofeng.
However you want to say it, that's fine.
And the Baofeng and its derivative brands, and there's a few.
There are a few.
At first, I wanted to say this is a detriment, because I saw technicians getting their license and buying these radios, and then they go, "Oh, this thing doesn't worth anything," and they gave up on the hobby, or they get disinterested because, well, this thing's hard to use, it's hard to program. It is all those things.
Okay, would those same technicians, though, have been willing to spend $120 on a radio to get into the hobby?
That's a great point, because I bet you're right.
And that's kind of sort of my thought with that is if you are in college and poor, which is usually the case, or just poor in general.
Sure.
Or a kid, and your parents are going, "I'm not buying you a $1,000 toy that you can have," and there's some reality to that. You can get into the base, and keep in mind, you're not going to like these radios forever. They function. That's about it. They work. They'll get you on the air.
They're great for experimenting. I actually use mine for lots of things, but I don't like using them for talking.
No, they have they have their use. They really do honestly have their use. So if you think about the Baofeng radios, and I compare like my 2AT, which is the thumb wheel, no tone, so you can't work with, repeaters that require a PL tone to open.
Work with our freaking repeater right now.
I
Sorry.
would right now, yeah. But that those old radios sound really good.
Yeah, they do.
Mm-hmm.
And
There's a notable quality difference
well, and then if
in
you
the
also think
audio.
about it, oh yeah, oh definitely. Well, and then my 2GAT, which does have PL tone, so it will work with any modern 2-meter radio, 2-meter repeater rather, except for digital because it's analog only. But it actually sounds amazingly good, and the speaker on that thing sounds amazingly good, and it is 30 plus years old, almost. Let's see, at 84, I think, when that thing came out. So it's about the same age as my DX7, and it still works and still sounds great. And I guarantee you that thing's been dropped at least a dozen times and didn't shatter.
Right.
But it's also made out of metal, that weird, that hard substance, do this like everyone's like, oh, my keyboard's plastic. By DX7, it's not.
So here's the thing with Baofengs I've not figured out is the mics are very poor on them. They're not very sensitive. You really have to have them up in your face. That wasn't the case with all older HTs. Often they won't have a sensitive condenser mic to cut out background noise because you never know we're going to be carrying the thing. But I feel like I don't know if it's because they've cheapened it up or it's to get in the smaller package, but the mics are just very poor on them, nor are they adjustable. That's one of my two gripes with the Baofeng compared to even some of the big 3 HTs are like that today. They're not what they once were.
Well, okay. In all honesty, like all my older stuff is either made in Japan or Korea. Mostly Japan, not that much Korea, but a little bit in Korea. Most of some parts are made in Korea. Now the entire thing's made in China, and it is made dirt cheap. I mean, really cheap, cost-wise. They make those things. I bet their cost is $10 each.
They have to be to sell things like that so low.
Well, and you're sitting there looking at this thing going, how can you make this? I mean, so here's fun. So referencing another channel, which has nothing to do with ham radio, it was Junkyard Digs where they're rebuilding. He called it it was the brown truck that was on fire. But they're sitting there looking at a Chinese-made starter. And the guys, and he literally says, and it's a completely accurate statement. He's like, how do you make this? It was like $18 starter. How do you make this for $18? Well, if you throw out any kind of regulation, safety, or
quality control,
or frankly, paying your workers, yeah, you probably could.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing as a society I think we have really, really got wrong, and I see this in a lot of problems. But is that we've decided that cheaper is better, and it's not. But if you are poor and can't afford, like one of the big 3 or big 4 or 5, whatever there is now out there, because there's a few other than just ICOM, Yaesu.com, whatever you call it, anyway.
Yacomwood.
Yacomwood, yeah. Because there's other ones over there, they're out there as well, and I've had other ones. But so anyway, but the reality is, if you don't have money and you need to get into the hobby cheap, it does do that. It does work. They do function. But you're not going to want to leave that as your sole radio for durations of time,
right?
Because it just doesn't work that good. I mean, it works. It gets you on the air. You can talk and you can hear. The sound quality is like an old telephone.
I think what's more detrimental to the hobby is technicians keying up on a repeater for the first time, throwing their call out, and nobody answering them.
That's fair.
Yeah, and when I I'll give you a short story on that, which is kind of pointless. But
and that's not to say that people don't want to talk. It's just there's in certain areas there's not a lot of 2-meter traffic or 70-centimeter traffic.
Yeah, and I got my license in Indianapolis. Okay, so I actually took the test when I was at ITT. And then I upgraded. I went over to Greenfield, I think it was. Sounds right. I took my tech test because they were doing it over there. So I had to do code.
Sure.
I did code originally.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's how long it goes. Like 6 months later, didn't need to, but still. So I was in Indianapolis. Now there's a lot of hams in Indy, a lot of hams. And getting on the repeater in Indianapolis, I actually got on the Mighty 525, which was big, W8VZY's repeater at the time.
Bob
He's still,
Hawkins.
yeah.
I never knew
And
him. I've met him on YouTube. So
I've met him in person several times back
he's
in the
nice.
day.
He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's actually
he lives
nice
in
guy.
Edinburgh nowadays. So
Yeah. And I had, I'd got my novice, so I was only on 10 meters and I had 220. So I was on 10 and 220, which are the only two you had voice. Well, realistically, the only ones you had voice privileges on at the time. I think technically there's others, but anyway. But I went ahead and I found that I still have that thing here. I've got to take that out and fix it. Because I never throw anything away. Yeah. You should feel sorry for my wife. You really should. My kids think it's cool. My wife's like, oh no more.
Yeah. You mentioned 220. The Baofeng, to me, when they came out with an affordable 3-band that allows 1.25 meters, that caught my eye, and I own 2 of those now because I think that's an interesting band that is not really in our region very much. And before I'm dead, I'll have some sort of infrastructure going. All the guys
before COVID
locally
attacks you.
and before all the guys around here trying to give everybody to digital on 2 meter and 440. I'm like, y'all are ignoring 1.25 over here. I do like that about them, and I own 2 of those, and they work good for that. As best I can tell, I've not got to use them much unless I'm up in Indianapolis or something.
Yeah, well, so my quad band HT, which I still have, does have 1.2 gig. It's actually 6.2, 440, and 1.2 gig. So
it's 1.2 meters, but yeah.
Or 1.2 meters.
You're talking about 1.2 gig. Ham. I know I choose. Yeah, you got that.
Yeah. So it's 20 centimeters. I always get those numbers wrong. So
getting our wires crossed. That's all right. I'm talking about 200
thing for a while.
Yeah. So,
okay. Yeah. So you got 1.25 meters, and you have 1.25 gigahertz.
Yeah. Okay. And you have radios for all of them. So
I have radios for all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have any 1 point or the 23 centimeter or whatever stuff.
Yeah, my 220 radio is in pieces.
Yes. We got to fix that, man. That'd make a great video. So put the camera in and start working,
I need to. Well, yeah, I've got a camera here. Which I think you can actually see it, but it's not on. Well, actually, I think it is on, but it's just plugged in. So, but it's not doing anything because I've been working on stuff for my channel because I built a studio.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I need to make videos.
Yeah, so everybody go check out Citizen Nerd when you're done watching 3OTD stuff. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I in fact, my last video I show off the studio a little bit. I even show off the area that's not done, which is over there.
Yep, that's a good video.
And it's a mess right now. It's even worse.
Anyway, good talk on Baofengs, guys.
Yep.
So that's an interesting subject I don't think we've crossed. So.
Well, and they're not, like I said, they're not a bad radio. They're just, if you're needing to get into the hobby cheap because you don't have a lot of money, it's functional and it's cheap. It's not going to be great, and I wouldn't expect them to last long periods of time.
Yeah. Take care of them, they might though.
If you take care of them, they might.
Like I said, I've got one since 2013. I do know one person that's had one just fall over dead. But you were saying, Justin, sorry.
I have 2, and I mean, granted, they don't get extended use, but I also don't take very good care of them. I mean, like one has been in my truck for like 2 years, just kind of hanging out there in the door pocket.
I've run them so hot and heavy on as fox hunt transmitters that it'll eat the battery in an hour, and they still hold up well. So it'd be like 9,000 degrees when the battery finally dies. So.
Yeah. Battery just explode in your hand.
They don't have great heat dissipation.
No,
they really don't.
All right. Until next time, I'm Timmy.
I'm Justin.
I'm Nathan. We're like a long distance apart.
That's right.
We're still
3 old tech dudes. Thanks for hanging out with us here on 3 Old Tech Dudes. Please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more tech old and new, tinkering at the workbench, repairs, ham radio, electronics, computers, and more. Please like this video and share 3OTD with your friends to help us grow the channel. We tweet at 3 Old Tech Dudes 1 on Twitter, and you can keep up with us on Facebook. Just search for 3OTD and look for our logo. Thanks so much for watching.